Hi guys, it's Becky from Book Obsessed Becky. So this is the second time I've done this video today. The first time there was all kinds of background noise from my dog and there was a squirrel on the bird feeder like coming and peeking in the windows. Then I sat down just now to record again, and what happens but a wild turkey lands on the deck, which sends my dog into a frenzy, barking like a madman. So I think I've got him squared away now. He's in with my son in the bedroom, so hopefully he behaves himself so that I can do my best books of 2023. I've been out of practice, so I'm quite nervous, and there's somebody else in the house with me, which I never record with somebody else in the house, so that makes me uncomfortable as well. But I have 12 books to talk about, and not all of them are here. Some of them are library books, so I don't have a copy of them, or they're on my Kindle. So I'll show you pictures on my phone, which I'm getting right here, and talk about them that way. So I guess I will start off with maybe the books that aren't here. So I'm going to look up the first one. And the first one, the cover is deceiving because it looks like such a sweet novel, like a romance novel, and it is far from a sweet novel. So here's the cover. I don't know if it's gonna show up or not. It's called Sugar and Salt, and it's by Susan Wiggs. If you've read The Lost and Found Bookshop, that was her book as well. Anyways, so the cover shows a woman doing a cake, and that just screams all the Hallmark vibes, right? So not that. Yes, there's a little bit of a romance in it, but I've got my notes here too to talk about it. This book hits on some really hard topics, and some of the information just blew me away because I got Googling it afterwards, and I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, the injustice is absolutely absurd. So we're following Molly. She loves cooking, especially barbecue, and she's living in Texas, and her dream one day is to become a barbecue like chef and open a restaurant. Well, she goes out with this boy a couple of times. Things don't go well. She has a very traumatic and violent experience, which leads to some serious injustice. And we're following her through that part of her life. And then later on in her life, she ends up moving, and she does end up getting her restaurant that she wants. And she's kind of sharing this building with a bakery, and she meets the man that works in the bakery. His name is Jerome. They may start a little bit of a fling, but she's very hesitant because of her traumatic past. And as she's starting to settle in and make a name for herself in this community with her barbecue restaurant, her past begins to creep into her present, and it throws her into a frenzy. Like, is she able to have her dreams that she's always wanted, or is her past going to continually destroy her? Because it's like what happened to her is just completely devastating. And I don't want to say any more than that, but it's definitely worth a read. It's not all fluffy. It is very traumatic. There are some serious trigger warnings that should be looked up, but I really loved the book. I love the way that Susan Wiggs writes. I also love The Lost and Found Bookshop, and some of that book is mentioned in this one. So yeah, it was just a wonderful read and one I highly recommend. All right, I'm back on my phone because I'm going to pull up the next one, which is a book that I had gotten as an ARC from NetGalley. It's a total chick-lit kind of read, and it's a good summer read. It's a closed-door romance. I really enjoyed it. It's called The Same Time Next Summer, and I hope that's coming in, by Annabel Monaghan, I think is how you say her name. So in this story, you're in the past and you're in the present. So you're following Sam and Wyatt. Sam and Wyatt both spend their summers at their parents' Long Island beach home. They are growing up together, they're friends, they hang out all summer long, and then at the end of summer they go back to their like home cities or states or whatever, and they don't really see each other or speak to each other until summer rolls around again. So as they're getting older, they start to form more than a friendship, a bit of a relationship, and everything is going well until one summer something happens, and that sends Wyatt packing. I think it's their last summer, like after they graduated or something. It really upset Wyatt, and he left, and that was the last that Sam had ever heard from him until she's in her 30s, and she decides to go back to this beach home with her folks and her little sister and her fiance, who happens to be a doctor, and they're going to plan their wedding, like do bits and pieces of the planning process for their wedding. What she does not expect is to run into Wyatt, who happens to be staying at his parents' beach house that summer. And from the outside, he looks exactly like the same Wyatt that she had fallen in love with all those years ago. You know, still playing his guitar, making music, and working on cars, which she doesn't know is what his life is really like beyond the beach house, because what you see is definitely not what you're getting with Wyatt. And she needs to make a decision if she wants to fall for him again and be with him, or if she wants to stay on her orderly, like, life that she's created for herself, where there's no risk, nothing that she needs to worry about, nothing unpredictable ever happens, and marry her doctor. Yeah, I thought it was a good book. It was a fun, clean romance. Definitely a quick read. Total chick lit. Really enjoyed it. All right, I'm flipping the page here to the next one I have. Okay. So this one that I'm getting ready to talk about, I'm pulling up the information on my phone, is a cozy mystery. It's book 1 in a cozy mystery series. And it takes place in Scotland, which that's one of my favorites. So it is called Murder in a Scottish Shire. And it is by Traci Hall. And the dog that you see on the cover, his name is Wallace. So in this book, we are following Paisley, a 28-year-old single mom to Brody and dog Wallace. She owns a yarn store. Her grandmother passed away. She's raising this boy on her own. She owns a yarn store. She knits for people, like for the shop and special orders. And she's really down on her luck. She is single. She doesn't really have anybody to lean on. She does a knit night every week, and she's kind of created a nice group of friends there. But yeah, it's just her and Brody and Wallace, really. And she's down on her luck, and one morning she is served an eviction notice, saying that she needs to, like, move her shop, that her shop can't be in this building anymore. Well, that same morning, a police officer walks into her shop with an old man in tow. And this old man happens to be her grandfather that she hasn't seen since she was a little girl because her grandparents had split up. He had been sleeping on a park bench. He's homeless. He was living with his son, but his son went to work on this barge or something, and the grandfather wasn't able to hold on to the house by himself, and he became homeless. So he's been living like on a park bench, which obviously can't happen. So her morning is just going to crap, right? So she takes in this old man, her grandfather, and she gets this notice from her landlord. And then later on in the day, her new hire doesn't show up, and she begins to worry because her new hire is somebody that she's hired in the past and knows and likes. And the woman had moved away, and now she's moved back, and Paisley's rehired her. Well, she doesn't show up to work. So Paisley gets worried, and she goes over to her place and finds out that her friend is dead. The cops are ruling it as a suicide. Paisley doesn't think so. She doesn't see any reason why this girl would commit suicide, so she decides to take it upon herself to start sleuthing to find out what really happens to her friend. And the things that she gets up to is just, it's just so cozy. I really enjoyed it. If you like a book that has to do with cozy mysteries like sleuthing, a single mom, and knitting and yarn, and like found family and all of that, this is definitely a book for you. Totally recommend it. I'm not through the series yet, but that first one was a really good one. The next book I have, I'm looking for it again on my phone, is another ARC that I had gotten from NetGalley. And this book, I read it at the beginning of last year, and it stayed with me all year. I loved it. If you love historical fiction based in World War II, I think you really like this. And it's based on like true events. So that was pretty awesome. It is called Code Name Sapphire by Pam Jenoff. And this book, there is so much to it. So I'm going to read you the blurb because I don't want to mess it up. So let me pull it up here. Hold on. Okay. It says 1942. Hannah Martel has narrowly escaped Nazi Germany after her fiancé was killed when her ship bound for America is turned away at port. She has nowhere to go but to her cousin Lily's, who lives with her family in Brussels. Fearful for her life, Hannah is desperate to get out of occupied Europe. But with no safe way to leave, she must return to the dangerous underground work she thought she had left behind. Seeking help, Hannah joins the Sapphire Line, a secret resistance network led by a mysterious woman named, I think her name is Michele, and her brother Matteo. But when a grave mistake causes Lily's family to be arrested and I just lost my spot. And slated for deportation to Auschwitz, Hannah finds herself torn between her loyalties. How much is Hannah willing to sacrifice to save the people that she loves? This is inspired by the incredible true stories of courage and sacrifice. Codename Sapphire is a powerful novel about love, family, and the unshakable resilience of women in even the hardest of times. This book was amazing. I don't know what to say other than what I just read to you because I don't want to give anything away, but I was completely blown away by the strength and character of this woman, the lengths that she was willing to go through to save her family, the terrible things that these people went through. Definitely trigger warnings for this book as well. And just the bravery is just incredible. If you love historical fiction and you love World War II time, you need to give this book a go because it was amazing and you're just following incredibly strong women during that time. Okay, so next on the list, this is my pile of books here that I have right here that I'll be talking about. The first one on the pile is The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek. That's what it looks like. So this one takes place in 1936. It's historical fiction. You're following this woman named Cussie, or the townspeople call her Blewett. They call her Blewett because her skin is blue tinted. Her father's is the same way. Her mother's was the same way. It's not a common thing in this area, but it has been known to happen to certain people. So it's in Kentucky, and you're following Blewett as she does her work with the Pack Horse Library Project. So basically her job is to deliver books to small areas where people don't have access to books. Some of these people don't even know how to read. And she believes that everybody should be able to have books and learn how to read. So she takes it upon herself to do this along with some other women in the pack horse community. She suffers a lot of racism, and she has some trouble throughout the book. There is also a murder that happens, and she never gives up, which is pretty amazing because of the racism and stuff that she goes through. It's just such a great book. If you love books about books, then this is definitely a good one to pick up. I really enjoyed it. I think I listened to it on audio, which was good. But the paperback has got good flop, so I'm sure that it would be just as good reading the paperback. Okay. Another book I have here is one that I picked up because of Patreon. Ugh, I'm readjusting on the couch, sorry. I am part of Lauren and the Books Patreon, and we read a book every month. And over the summer, we read this book by Elizabeth Jane Howard called The Light Years, and it is part of the Cazalet Chronicles. This is one, and I don't even know how many books are in this series, but the book is fantastic. So if you love Downton Abbey, like where you have the parents and then you have the adult children and the grandchildren all in the same home, and you have servants, this will be a book for you. It definitely gives the Downton Abbey vibes. So you've got the brig, and I think she's the duchy. Pretty much it's the parents. And then those two people had 3 sons and a daughter. The daughter is single. She doesn't have any children. I believe she's also the youngest. And then the 3 sons, the 2 older ones had gone to World War I. One of them suffered terribly, and the other one come home without any injuries. And then the 3rd son was too young to join up, so he missed out on that. But this book takes place right at the start of World War II. It hasn't happened yet, but Hitler has come to power and they're like teetering on it. So it's the summer before, and the whole family and grandkids end up back at the brig and duchy's house, and they spend the summer together. And you are following not so much the brig and the duchy as much as their kids and their grandkids. You're following each one of them. They all have their own point of view throughout the story. You see what they're getting up to. And it's just such a cozy, I don't even know if you'd say wholesome, but kind of gives you like the, I don't know, kind of gave me like the Walton vibes and the Downton Abbey vibes, and I just could not put it down because I was always interested in getting to the next character to see what they were up to, because I just fell in love with all of the characters, and the age range is like, well, from old people to really young children. I just really loved it, and I've got the second one in the series over at my desk. I just haven't had a chance to start it yet, but if you're looking for like historical type fiction, or following a family and starting a new series and kind of World War II vibes at the beginning, definitely give this one a go because it's really good. It is a chunker though, so beware. Okay, another book that I have, I picked up at Prince Edward Island a couple of years ago at a bookstore called Indigo, I think is what it was called. And it's called The Boardwalk Bookshop by Susan Mallery. Again, perfect flop. You know what I mean if you're a reader. Like, it's a thing. So in this book, we're following 3 different women. One of them is in her 20s. She is a baker, and she lives with her boyfriend. She desperately wants to get married. He does not want to get married. Then you follow another woman who is recently divorced, has 2 teenage children who are going to be leaving home to go to college and whatnot. And her ex-husband is still her friend. They still do stuff together. He does repairs in her home. She owns a gift store. And then you're following another woman who, her parents were both authors, famous authors, and she has experienced some trauma. She's decided that she does not ever want to be married. She doesn't ever want to have to rely on a partner. She is more of a one-night stand, friends with benefits kind of a person. And she runs a bookstore. So these 3 women don't know each other very well, but one day they happen upon the same storefront that all 3 of them wanted. However, they could not afford by themselves. So they decide to go in on it together. And the store is big enough so that each one of them can open up their shop in the store together and they'll still have enough room. So, and it's right on the boardwalk. So the customer flow is really good. And yeah, they end up becoming really good friends. They meet once a week on the beach to kind of catch up on the week and to have a glass of wine together. They really become very close, and they're all at different stages in their lives. Not that they're like hugely different in ages, because one's in their 20s and the other two are in their 30s, but they're just at different stages of life. The book is about friendship. It's about love. It's about finding yourself. It's just a good time. It's a good beach read, I thought. And it says here on the back, from #1 New York Times bestselling author, a story of friends who become family, giving each other courage to start over again. Really such a great read. I really enjoyed that one. The next one is quite the chunker, and it's I don't know if you would say it's the last in the series, but it's third in the series. And it is The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 3. I've read the first 3 in the series. I haven't read the other 3. I really enjoyed it. You can see I've tabbed it up. It's a chunker. We're following Vin. And I can't really say much more than that. If you love like magic systems, and you love like strong women, and you love a bunch of misfits getting together and becoming, I guess, heroes in a sense, like being the good guys, and you love adventure, then I think you'll really love this book. This series is my first venture into Brandon Sanderson and epic fantasy, and I loved it. This was my favorite one out of the first 3. I don't know if I'm going to get to the next 3 or not. I've been told that they're quite different than the first 3, and they're further along in time. But yeah, if you're looking for something that you can completely get lost in, then absolutely pick this one up. And you can be lost in this for a while because it's well over 700 pages. But I very much enjoyed it. And yep, it's got that. So that's awesome. Okay, another book I just finished recently, back in December, is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. And I've read one other book by him, and I think it was called Survive the Night, which I really enjoyed. This book, I absolutely loved. So we're following a woman named Lenora Hope, and she is in her 70s at this point. Her family has all been murdered. They were all murdered in this house when Lenora was like 17. The police could never find enough evidence to convict Lenora of the murders. And now she's at a point in her life where she is confined to a wheelchair. She can't speak. She can't move. The only thing that she can do is move her left hand. And she has a caregiver. Her newest caregiver is called Kit. Kit was down on her luck, and the agency that she worked for had her on like leave because something had happened to one of her patients that she was caring for. Well, this position to care for Lenora opened up, and the agency mentioned it to Kit, and really Kit didn't have any other options. So she decided to take on this job. And she believes that Lenora killed her family, and really, who wants to work for a serial killer? But really, Kit doesn't have very many options. This takes place in Maine, small town in Maine, and she starts work, and she eventually forms like a friendship with Lenora, and Lenora decides that she wants to tell Kit everything through a typewriter. And that's what she does. We discover how her family really died, who really did it, and it's such a wild ride. the twists and turns I was not expecting. It definitely kept me on my toes. I really enjoyed this book a lot. If you like thrillers, then definitely give this one a go. The next book I have here to talk about is one that I read, I can't even remember. I want to say it was in the summertime, and as soon as I finished it, I went out and I bought a copy for my mother-in-law, and it is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus, and this book was amazing. I loved following Elizabeth Zott. She is a woman not of her time period. So this book takes place in the 60s, and Elizabeth is, I can't even say Elizabeth, it's just Elizabeth Zott. She is a chemist. She works in a lab. The sexism that she faces throughout this book is absolutely ridiculous. She does not want to be a homemaker. She doesn't want to be a wife. She can't see herself having children. Well, surprise, surprise, she becomes pregnant. The father is not there. And she is not making the money that she deserves working in this lab as a chemist like the rest of the men. She is eventually approached by this father that their kids share the same school, and he happens to be a TV producer, and he wants Elizabeth Zott to do a cooking show. And she is like, no, I'm not a cook. I'm not a home cook. Like, I don't care about this, but she needs the money. So she decides to do it, and she puts her own spin on it, and she treats it like a science lesson. She talks about the food. She talks about the way the food affects the body. She doesn't call it like baking soda. She gives it the proper scientific name. She teaches the women that watch her show science, and these women decide, you know what, there is more to life than just being stuck at home caring for my husband and kids. I want to do more with my life. She really kind of creates this movement for these women, and it's such a great story. And her dog 630, I think, is my favorite character in the book. We get his perspective, and we also get Elizabeth Zott's perspective, and I just really enjoyed it. If you like historical fiction, if you like women stepping out of societal norms, definitely give this one a go. Okay, so then I have another book that I loved. It's called Wayward, and it's by Emilia Hart. I read it in the fall, I think. We were following 3 different women from 3 different timelines. So we've got, I think her name is Altha, and she is in 1619. Then we're following Violet in 1942. And then we get to Kate in 2019. So each chapter bounces between the different timelines and the different characters. Altha, in the book, starts out as a little girl. We watch her grow up, and as she becomes a late teen, young adult, she is brought up on charges of being a witch. So we follow her as she's imprisoned, and we find out whether or not she's hung and if she's really guilty of being a witch. In 1942, we are following Violet. Her mother passed away when she was a baby. She has a brother as well, and they live with their father. Their father is not the nicest of men. He hunts, he drinks, what he says goes. He's not very affectionate. He definitely shows more attention to his son than he does his daughter. Well, Violet finds herself in trouble by no fault of her own. She's a 16-year-old girl. Something terrible happens to her, and her father kicks her out. And he ends up taking her to this little house called Wayward Cottage, which happens to be the same house that Altha and her mother lived in back in the 1600s. And what Violet discovers while being... Okay, my camera died. So I'm not sure what I said, but she ends up in this cottage called Wayward Cottage, and what she discovers completely blows her mind. She has a whole new view of her father. She discovers things about herself that she didn't know was there. The same things that she discovered about her mother that link back to Altha. I don't know how to say her name and it drives me crazy. Yeah, it completely rocks her world. And then we go to Kate in 2019, where she is living with an abusive man. Her mother is in Canada, I believe, and she is in the UK. And her father passed away when she was a young girl. So she is mixed up with this man. They live together. He's very controlling. He's violent with her. Really, he just makes her life absolutely miserable. He made her quit her job. Like, she's trapped in the house. Basically, she's a prisoner in her own life. And he views the ultimate conquering of her would be to get her pregnant. So that's what he goes for. Well, she eventually gets the courage up to leave him. She escapes. So we're following her escape. And she inherited this cottage called Wayward Cottage. And what she discovers there, again, changes her life. Like how it did for Violet. This story is fantastic. If you are looking for like cottage vibes and coziness, then this definitely could be the book for you, but beware, there are trigger warnings, so definitely check on the trigger warnings for this book. All right, and last on the list is The Book of Magic by Alice Hoffman. I would say this is the last book in this series. This is part of the Practical Magic series, and I loved it. I read this in October. Again, if you're looking for like witchy, like cottage core kind of vibes, and this is the book for you. I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil the other books in the series, but this is definitely my favorite in the series. We are following Jet and Franny in their old age, and they're in their old age, but there's other people in the story that we're learning about. So Jet and Franny are both witches, and they're also aunts. So their nieces are in here along with their like great nieces, and some things happen, and there's curses that keep them from being able to love men, because the men always seem to die, and some stuff happens and it sets the younger niece on a journey, and it makes people kind of face the fact that they have magic in them and that they are in fact witches. We also see Franny and Jet's brother in here, and I can't remember his name for the life of me, but he is reintroduced into the book, and people die. I cried, but I loved it, and I think it was such a good ending to that series. So if you're loving Practical Magic and you want to read the series, definitely don't forget this one, because this was such a good read. So all of the books I've mentioned, none of them are like, I don't know how to say it. It's like, I don't have a top one. I loved them all. So I read them out, not in any particular order, because I don't really have an order for them. But yeah, all of those books were my top books of the year. And I'm looking forward to 2024 and finding some more good books. What were your favorite books of the year? Please let me know down below. And I think I'm going to end it here, and be on the lookout for my 2024 and 2024 books once I figure out my list. I'm at 14 books right now, so I need to figure out the rest. But I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's staying warm and cozy. Where I am, it's about 8 degrees Fahrenheit right now, so it's freezing out, and we have tons of snow, which is exciting. But all right, until next time, happy reading, everybody. Bye.